Factor Podcast. What is up, college cross fans? You are watching another episode of the Lax Factor Podcast. Today, in Monday's show, we're going to recap Army at Syracuse. Tomorrow, we're going to get into a bunch of other games, and what we'll probably do is put the recaps out as individual videos. At any point, if you want to listen to the full audio podcast for any given day, go to anchor.fm/LaxFactor. But for today, we're going to dive into the great game that was Army at Syracuse that I attended yesterday. Before I get into it, wanted to talk about Sideline Swap, this episode's sponsor. Best place to buy and sell used lacrosse gear, hard to find gear, pre-owned heads, shafts, helmets, and more, up to 70% off retail. So go to the link in the description below or just go to sidelineswap.com and you can get yourself some sweet gear. Now, to get into the details of this game, Army-Cuse game, it was crazy. Crazy game. 5-2 at the half. It felt a lot worse than that because at one point it was 5-1 pretty much thanks to Brendan Nichtern. He had a big first half. I was talking to the guys in the box I was sitting with, and Nichtern is the key here. So he has the first 2 assists for Army, and then he scores 2 goals in that first half, helping Army to a 5-1 lead late in the first half. I think they scored their last goal about 1:13 left in the half, and it looked 5-1. Going into the half down by that, it would have sucked. Curry did score a late goal for Syracuse to try to get it back to, or not to try, but to successfully get it back to 5-2. So that was huge for Syracuse. If he had not put up that goal to get it back to 5-2, that second half could have gone a lot differently. But Brendan Nichtern, over the course of that first half, 2 goals, 2 assists. So he had 4 points out of Army's first 5 goals. That was a big deal, and it was key to Army's success. And as I've said, Nichtern is going to continue throughout the season to be the key to Army's success. When he's putting up points, when he's involved in the game, I think Army will do well offensively, and when he's not, I think they'll tend to struggle a little bit. And he's the fastest player, I believe, in Army history, or at least in a long time, to get to 100 points as well. So congrats to Nichtern. Now, the other side of the ball, Jamie Trimboli. Trimboli puts up 5 goals on the day. That's a career high for him. He put up 3 goals over a 4-minute and 11-second stretch to start out the third quarter. So Cuse comes starts the second half down 5-2, and then Trimboli comes in and puts up a hat trick over 4 minutes and 11 seconds to tie the game up for Syracuse. Now, it did go back and forth. Army did chip back, and they go up 6-5, and then Cuse ties it up again. So it went back and forth a little bit, but Trimboli's 5 goals was the result of Syracuse, to a degree, doing what I've said they should be doing all along, feeding the beast. Offensively, the Syracuse attack unit, no points at all the entire game. Now, Cook probably played the best out of the 3 attack that had no points simply because of what he does in the ride game. But the Syracuse attack struggled, so Syracuse was forced to feed the beast a little bit more with that first midline. So they got a little bit of extra burn. They strung together a bunch of runs in a row for them, and the end result is Trimboli puts up 5 goals on the day. That was incredible. Another key to this game, Drake Porter in cage. He won the goalie battle over Schupler. Porter with 18 saves versus 7 goals against on the day. Schupler also played great, 16 saves, but only 5 of Schupler's saves came in the second half. So he struggled in the second half, whereas Porter put up a more consistent game from from the opening whistle to the final whistle when Syracuse wins this game. So Porter wins the goalie battle, had a very good first half, made a bunch of key saves in the beginning to keep it from going off the rails early. It could have been 6-1, 7-1 if it wasn't for Porter playing very solid between the pipes. Another key to this game, despite the early struggles, Syracuse went 7 of 8. Fopp went 7 of 8 in the first half winning faceoffs, and on the day he goes 16 of 19 on the day from the faceoff dot. So Fopp was huge in just making sure that Syracuse won that possession battle, which they did. It didn't always feel that way, especially early on the scoreboard, but overall Fopp had an incredible game. When you look at the stat line, the first half, we were all surprised that it was as lopsided as it had been up to that point. The one key place that Syracuse did outperform Army was shots. Syracuse outshot Army by quite a bit, but the shots on goal were pretty even. So Syracuse took a lot of bad shots early. They missed the cage a lot early. Shored that up over the course of the second half, put more on cage, really tested Schupler, and ended up winning that battle in the end. Syracuse defense, once again, without Nick Mellon. I'm told that they may be without Mellon for a little bit because he's got a hammy injury, and those are nagging and hard to heal. So they're probably going to try to make sure Mellon is fully healthy before he comes back, because it is really easy to retweak those hammies, and you can have an entire season derailed because of something like that. So the defense without Mellon, they look tough. Army's a good offensive team, and Army has put up some points against some good teams, and the defense holding them to 5 goals in the first half, I was pleased with that, especially considering how poorly the offense played. And then the second half, to limit Nick Turn. Nick Turn has 4 points in the first half, 0 points in the second half, and that was largely due to Kennedy and company getting on him, getting on his hands, and just pestering him and everybody else. So that defensive effort to allow 5 goals in the first half and only 2 over the course of the second, they clamped down and played well. A lot of that due to Porter, but a lot of that due to the D-mids and the close defense playing good lacrosse as a team. But then one of the other things we can talk about is the attack. 9 shots between the 3 starting Syracuse attackmen, no goals, no assists, a big goose egg. And a lot of people are saying, what does that mean? I'm not sure it means anything for the most part. I think that Syracuse is a quality team throughout their roster. And one of the things that we were talking about earlier in the year is the reason this team is built, as a championship level team, built like that anyway, is because it doesn't matter who has a bad day. In this case, all 3 Syracuse attackmen had a bad day. That's what Army does. That's how Army beat up on UMass. That's how Army beat up on Rutgers. They give attackmen problems. They disrupt offensive flow. And if a team can't get in that flow, they're going to be hurt by that. In this case, the Syracuse first-line midfielders, they're the ones that did all the damage here. And they picked up the slack for the Syracuse attack that were, struggling mightily for the most part. So that Syracuse attack, we don't want them to have too many games like that, but where they do have those games, it's not going to kill them. Jamie Trimboli, 5 goals on the day. Brendan Curry, 2 goals, 2 assists. Tucker Dordevic, quiet, but 1 very key goal. David Libka, 1 goal. That is it. That's the points. We have 5 goals. We have, let's see here, so 8 goals scored by the Syracuse first midfield line, 1 goal by their second, and that is all of their points on the day. So that is pretty crazy. For the Army side here, everybody was fairly quiet except Nick Turn. Nick Turn 2-2, Miles Silva 2-0, and then a bunch of guys chipping in 1 goal. So both teams played well. Both teams played hard. It was actually, even though it was a low-scoring game, it wasn't a terribly ugly game. There wasn't a ton of turnovers. Both teams cleared the ball well. It was just a hard-fought game with 2 goalkeepers playing really well and 2 defensive teams, two teams that had played really good defense on the day. And Syracuse, everyone's been a little worried about that defense. How are they going to play once we play a good team? Well, we saw today. Army, one of the better offensive teams in the country. Nick Turn, one of the best attackmen in the country, and they kept him quiet, and they kept the Army offense quiet despite that rough first half. They just kept chipping away until they finally got in a groove, put some goals together. But player of the game, hands down, some might want to give it to Porter. Porter, he's going to be expected to play this well often this year, and he's going to need to. But the player of the game for me, especially considering the offensive drought that Syracuse had, is undoubtedly Jamie Trimboli. His 5 goals on the day, the 3 that he rang off across the beginning, of that third period to get Syracuse back to tied. Can't say enough about the day that he had. One of my little buddies here, Lincoln, got to meet Trimboli after the game, got a picture taken. So if I get approval from Lincoln's mother, I'll put that picture up here as I'm talking about this. But that was cool, too. It wasn't just cool that Lincoln got to meet Trimboli, get his picture taken, and talk to his favorite lacrosse player, but it was cool that Trimboli on that day put up 5 goals. So it couldn't have been a better time for a little meet and greet for Link.